Hello, Chad Edwards here with Elite ELDT. Today's presentation is going to discuss the quickest way to become a truck driver without having a CDL. Make no mistake, you will need a CDL to pursue a career as a truck driver unless you plan to drive a small truck with a gross vehicle weight rating of under 26,001 pounds. Unfortunately, you can't haul much freight like that, so to drive a big truck, you will need to earn a commercial driver's license. Doing so is not easy and does require some time invested to acquire the skills needed to pass the pre-trip inspection, backing maneuvers, and road driving portions of the CDL exam. There are several ways to get this training, but here I'm going to share the one that I think is the quickest and probably the easiest for most people. I can't think of one other way that may be faster, but it would require you to have access to a truck and someone licensed to drive it who is willing to work with you and teach you the ropes. Since most of us don't have free access to a tractor trailer and a licensed truck driver, this technique I'm going to share with you is a fantastic and more realistic option. So if you're serious about being a truck driver, you may begin by seeking employment with a trucking company that provides CDL training. Most of the time, these companies include the big mega carriers and are easy to find on the internet. You simply have to do a search for trucking companies with CDL training. In order to attend the training they provide, you must first get hired by the company. The terms of their job offer include the company's guarantee to employ you once you complete training and get a CDL. These terms also include the requirements you must meet in order to receive this training without cost. Typically, these requirements outline a minimum amount of time you must remain employed with that company in order to repay them for the training they provided for you. This time period is usually about 1 year. Some basic eligibility guidelines for new hires include the following: a solid work history with no pattern of bouncing from one job to another, and no long unexplainable gaps without work. You must have a decent driving record, meaning very few points and no DUI for the last 3 years and possibly up to the last 10 years, depending on the company. No history of failing or refusing to take a drug test. If you have some criminal convictions, they might make it difficult to get hired, again depending on the company. Of course, you must be eligible for a CDL, which means proficient in speaking and reading basic English, able to pass the DOT physical and get a medical card, and not disqualified from CDL privileges for any reason. There are two common ways training is provided by trucking companies. One is through the use of company-owned schools or training programs. This is referred to as company-provided training. Another way is through company-sponsored training. Company-sponsored is simply when the trucking company has contracted with an independent truck driving school to provide training for these individuals. There are not many differences between these two, and the pros and cons of each are very similar. There are several good reasons to choose this option for your new career in the trucking industry. First off, you are guaranteed a job as long as you successfully complete your training and get a CDL. Secondly, the cost of the training is covered by the company and they typically pay you a small weekly amount while you're training. Therefore, the time frame from where you are now to when you will receive a paycheck is fairly short. Often the trucks you use for training will be the same models you will drive once on the job. And generally, these programs require only minimal out-of-pocket expenses from the trainee. You might be responsible for the cost of transportation, meals, and lodging while you're attending training. However, some of these items may be provided for you depending on the company. There are also potential risks associated with going this route to get a CDL. It's important to realize that some people just don't have the skills needed to drive a tractor trailer, and therefore not everyone can get a CDL. If you're unable to complete your training, or if something unforeseen takes place and you must drop out of the training program, you are still responsible for the cost of training. This can be very expensive, anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. You know, this is usually a time in one's life when they need to make money, and the last thing they need is more debt, so be careful. I had a student once that had been to one of the schools owned by a mega carrier. She told me that she completed all the backing maneuvers except for one before her husband became sick and she had to quit training so she could take care of him. Unfortunately, he passed away, and when she tried to return to the school, they did not let her. She told me that she still owed them $6,700 and that it was going up to $10,000 if she didn't pay it soon. I felt really bad for this student, as she was between a rock and a hard place, like they say. To make matters worse, she struggled terribly at our school and was unable to finish our program and get a CDL. For reasons like this, I hope these presentations help others to make more informed and realistic decisions. Be sure to do your homework. Find out from someone who drives for that company just what the job is really like. Also, I suggest doing a driving skills self-evaluation. There are 3 things I think anyone considering truck driver training should ask themselves. Number 1, what kind of driver am I? Do I have a history of speeding tickets, accidents, breakdowns, and do I often text and drive? Do I neglect my vehicle and fail to keep up with maintenance items that could make my vehicle unsafe? Or am I very careful and alert while I drive, have very few if any tickets or accidents, and keep my vehicle well maintained and operating safely? Trucking companies do not need drivers like the first type I mentioned here. They will hire them, but it's difficult to train someone with established poor habits. Even if these individuals acquire new skills, their habits make them more likely to damage equipment than someone who is very careful and always alert. Number 2, have you ever pulled or backed up a trailer? I'm talking about pulling any size trailer behind your personal vehicle. If so, do you watch where it tracks on turns? Can you back it up into a driveway or around a corner? If you can, you will be more likely to be successful at truck driving. If you struggle to back up a trailer or have never done so, you will probably struggle backing a big semi-truck. Number 3, do you know how to operate a manual transmission? I realize most newer trucks have automated, aka automatic transmissions, but I think it's really important to know how to operate a manual. If you have these skills already, they will help you when learning how to drive a truck. Even though truck transmissions are operated differently than those in a car, the knowledge and coordination you already possess will certainly give you an advantage over students that are learning this for the first time. Lots of companies still need drivers who can drive a truck with a manual transmission. Understanding how the transmission works is also very important. If you pass this basic self-evaluation, I'd say you have a good foundation to develop the skills needed to get a CDL. Don't forget, if you complete company-provided or company-sponsored training, you'll have to stay with this company for approximately 1 year to work off the cost of your training. If you leave before the training is paid back in full through your earnings, you will owe the company for whatever portion of your training has not been paid off yet. Understand exactly what expenses you will be responsible for during training and be prepared to cover those expenses. Get all the details in writing. Be sure you are ready to commit to trucking and commit to that company for the long haul. If you pursue this today, you could earn a paycheck in a month or less. Although that doesn't sound extremely fast, this really is one of the fastest ways to get paid while working towards becoming a truck driver. You could have your CDL in 2 months or less, but remember, after you get a CDL, you may be with a trainer for up to 2 more months. Altogether, it could take 4 months or more until you begin to earn money as a driver rather than a trainee. I hope you found this presentation helpful. At Elite ELDT, our goal is to provide accurate information so individuals interested in trucking will be equipped to make good decisions. Be sure to watch our video entitled, "So You're Considering a Job in Trucking, Advice for Future Truckers," for more information that may also be helpful in making this decision and commitment. Please like this video and share it with anyone you know that could benefit from the information provided. Thanks for watching. Drive safely.